Well, I like Walter because Walter's sort of quirky, kicky and forgetful and a bit sad and funny and has emotions.
It's raspberry jam.
Whereas Walton is a wonderful character, but he's stitched up. He's the same man, but he's just quite a difficult character to play. But on a personal preference, I like Walter.
I can't imagine how strange it must be for you.
I realise that I'm doing something at home and it's a bit odd, a bit eccentric. And I said to my wife, that's a bit Walter. She said, yes, it is, but it always has been. So I think there are some similarities.
Well, that would surprise me.
I hope they're good ones, not the bad ones. But there's also similarities with Walton, you know. You call on your own experiences doing these types of roles.
Have you ever worked behind a deli counter?
At times, it is confusing. And particularly with the two universes running, you know, we've had to be careful that we understood how the other side was reacting to us and so forth. So playing the two characters was very interesting in that respect. But tracking it out is fun. It's real fun. And these writers, I think, have the most extraordinary imaginations. When I talk to them, they've got enough stories, great stories, to run for 20 years. I mean, seriously. And every time they open a story up, it opens 4 more, which is a fascinating thing. Really clever men and women down there doing this for us.
Now, we need to simultaneously amplify and limit the molecular destabilization margins.
We make sure that we kind of know what they're talking about. That helps. So if there's some science in it, a lot of our science is really based on theoretical physics. So provided I've got an idea what we're talking about theoretically, then I'm okay. If I don't, I have to get onto the writers and say, I don't do it, I can't do it, I don't know what you're talking about, and then they'll give me a hint. The great thing for all of us is we have to understand, in a sense, what we're talking about, even though it seems far-fetched. And then it's relatively easy, really.
Not so surprising. It's the key to the universe.
The relationship with the father, while also complicated, is actually more simple because there's only one of the father. And their portion of the story has been the story of these two guys who were completely estranged at the beginning and then came together towards the end of season 2 and then were shattered apart again by circumstance. And now we haven't really got into it so much this year, but hopefully eventually we'll get back into how these two guys are dealing with each other after all that.
You did cross universes twice to save my life.
With Olivia, it's very complicated on our show. There's a couple of her, and he's trying to start a romance with the one that is the other one that he's not sure of.
Well, aren't all the best love stories tragedies?
I think he's in the process this year of realizing maybe not who he is, but what he is, because there's some sense of purpose now with this machine, this long before primeval machine that was on the other side and turns out is on this side too. So he has a sense of fate or destiny that I don't think he had at the beginning of the show, but more than anything what's changed is the relationship with his father has grounded him to a place for the first time in his life, and having to deal with that has made him, I guess, grow up a little bit.
Thanks. I think I just figured that out.
It was the character as much as it was the world. I'm a sci-fi fan, so JJ and his gang of guys really do this stuff well, where they build large stories and large mythologies. And I liked the idea of this guy who, in season 3, we don't really know anything about him still. We only know things that are happening in the current world. We have never got into what his life was. We sort of hinted and alluded at it, but you never see who this guy is. And now there's, you know, an epic mythological arc going on with the character of his fate being to choose the destiny of the universe.
I'm trying to see this your way, Walter.
You know, I like big storytelling like that, and I think you can get away with telling grand stories in science fiction a lot easier than you can get away with telling grand stories in sort of straight-ahead drama.
This is something else.
Well, we're in season 3. We're at the moment today. This is our second day of shooting episode 8 of season 3, and so I'm actually the alternate Olivia at the moment. And so we've been sort of flipping back and forth a bit, which has been fun. And I think what's going to be interesting is actually seeing how she evolves, having lived in someone else's shoes a little bit. I wonder if it's going to kind of lighten her up, or if it's going to really, I don't know, bring her down. She's tough. She's straight up. She's very sort of straight down the line, and earnest too. I always find her to be extremely earnest.
Are you telling me that it's not in the realm of possibility?
I'm playing 2 versions of the same person pretending to be the other version of themselves.
You gotta trust me. I'm you.
I'm like Olivia, who thinks that she's Bolivia on the other side, and then Bolivia, who's kind of trying to impersonate Olivia. And I haven't had enough time with Bolivia to really get a grasp on who she really is when she's not pretending to be the other.
I'm not who they say I am.
But we're lucky because we get to shoot on location quite a bit. So on average, it takes 8 days to shoot an episode, and maybe 2 of them will be at our studio and the rest is on location. You know, we're like the traveling circus. And usually it's like, what what is this story this week? And especially now when you get into the season, and because we've been flip-flopping too, back and forth. You'll be shooting 307, you'll be doing pickups for 304 and 303, and then there'll be like an insert unit going with just other people's hands doing typewriter errors. I never used to be able to read on set because I'd get the stories all mixed up, but you just get used to exercising particular muscles, and so I can switch on and off, and I read, and I find that's a really nice break. But I tend to read fiction because I find if I read non-fiction, I really do have to concentrate quite a lot to retain what I'm reading, but fiction I can just float away, and it's like a little break from what's going on. But I love hanging on set, actually. This is the only thing I've ever done in Canada, but I think it sort of seems to be the Canadian sensibility, which is similar to the Australian sensibility too. You know, you take your work seriously, but you want to come to work and enjoy your time too.
I guess being over there and meeting another Olivia Dunham's made me think about the way I look at the world.
There's two Broyles. So let's talk about the original Broyles, Special Agent Broyles, as opposed to Colonel Broyles, even though Special Agent is also a colonel, but I don't want to get too complicated. Special Agent Broyles, at first he was very, very mysterious and shadowy. He wasn't so much a part of the team as kind of an overseeing and kind of a go-between between the team and the powers that be, whether it be the government or whether it be kind of these shadowy figures that we didn't really know what it was. And this was before everything was kind of revealed that so much of this had to do with a conflict between our universe and the parallel universe. In the second season, he really becomes more a part of the team, going out on cases with them and that kind of thing.
Your quick thinking saved a lot of lives, Dr. Bishop. Good work.
And then, of course, there's alternate Broyles, which is a whole nother ball of wax. Kind of all the juicy stuff up until this point is with the alternate Broyles. Alternate Broyles is really kind of dealing with this new Olivia who's been brainwashed into believing that she's the alternate Olivia. And on the one hand, doing his job and doing what is told, because the Secretary of Defense, who's alternate, is his boss, and at the same time trying to deal with his gut that this is a really bad idea.
What if a new identity doesn't hold? It should no longer be necessary.
And just wanting my Olivia to be done with her mission in the other universe so she can come back and be part of my team. We can get rid of this other Olivia. But as the season goes on, because both Olivias are so competent and so dedicated to their jobs, she starts to be a great agent, and he starts to bond with her, and so then he's really in a dilemma.
You know who you are, don't you?
Forget about looking at it scientifically. Just looking at it philosophically. For me, one of the things that has always fascinated me about the whole notion of choice is that at any moment, any choice that you make will send you down a completely different path, and how that kind of ping-pongs off of everyone else's choices, and how anything is possible. Any outcome is possible.
Which is why we need to understand it.
Wow, there is no typical day on the set of Fringe. I mean, part of it all has to do with how much you have to do. There's some days where I'm only here for a few hours. There's some days where I'm here for 16 hours. You know, when you're really in it, it can be very exciting, but anybody who knows anything about being on a film set or being on television, there's also a lot of hurry up and wait. I get a lot of reading done.
All right, people, let's move. This is not a drill.
I think part of what makes Fringe so popular and people so rabid about it is that it seems to be the best of so many worlds. It's great science fiction. I don't even necessarily just mean dealing with the fantastical and playing with what's possible with reality, but I mean the philosophical and socio-political debate that great science fiction can be. And it's a great detective story. It's a great action-adventure story. It's got great relationships. It's got great writing. It's got great acting. And there's lots of car chases and explosions and guns.